Thanks for coming back and joining me for another video. So, SS Archewell has hit the iceberg and is definitely sinking. Honestly, I do believe that the iceberg was Oprah shaped. I believe that was the moment that they caused quite a fair bit of damage to their own reputation, and the continuous attacks on the royal family and the petty and envious games they play, well, as I've said so many times before, they literally are the authors of their own demise. Now, I'm very aware that they have dropped their second trailer. I mean, how many trailers does this tripe need? Their second trailer to show us about the suffering that they have endured, and it's hysterical. It's so funny that it deserves its own video for you guys tomorrow. Now, we are going to have a video extravaganza here because there is so much stuff going on that I'm going to do 2 videos back to back. My bottom is not leaving the seat. So this is the first video. The second video is going to be talking about the envy, green with envy when Boston lit up green. So I hope you come back and join me for that video, which will hopefully be released tonight. If not, it'll be tomorrow morning UK time, because it's a little bit bigger with a lot of photographs, because there's so many beautiful photographs to show you, and that's just Catherine. So let's talk about the sinking ship that is Archewell. Well, it is the Titanic, and the rats know it. Now, I'm not being disrespectful to anyone that works for Archewell, calling them rats, but it is a kind of phrase where the rats leave the sinking ship. They desert the sinking ship. And we are definitely seeing more staff that are hightailing it out of there. Their reputation is in absolute tatters at the moment due to the most ridiculous stuff that is coming out in this documentary. But enough about that. Let's just talk about the 2 members of staff that they have lost days apart. First of all, they've lost their president of Archewell, a Ms. Mandana Dayani, who Meghan recently appeared having a selfie with to jump on a bandwagon when Iran was quite clearly in front page news. As we know, Meghan will take anything that is in the headlines and she will try and do a post so she can get her name recognised alongside it. Now, Ms. Dayani is actually Iranian born, so she's an activist. What is happening in her home country, as I've reported before, is absolutely awful. But Meghan, ever the opportunist, got this selfie out there wearing a t-shirt. That is the last that we've obviously heard of Meghan doing anything to help the plight of Iranian women, but I'm sure we will hear more about that when they collect their humanitarian award. Their humanitarian award for fighting racism within the Institute. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. This is going to blow up in their face. But yes, that might have been the straw that broke Miss Diana's back, but apparently they left under mutual agreements. It was all pre-planned. Well, they say that about every member of staff that they've lost, which I think the count that we are just aware of is currently at 14 since 2018. I've got a sneaking suspicion that the lower ranked members of staff, the admin staff, the tea and coffee girl, the receptionist and things like that, the people that don't get mentioned because Archewell don't feel the need to say, this is a fabulous person that we've got working for us, so the media leave it alone. I'd imagine 14 is the tip of the iceberg, as it were. So, hot on the heels of Ms. Diani is their Archewell podcast producer, and I hope I say this right, Rebecca Sananes. I'm not that great with, obviously, accents, but she has also left days apart. After the backlash that Meghan's Flopcast podcast had, it's hardly surprising, considering the fact that she was meant to be in charge of it. It comes a point where you want something on your CV and then you don't want something on your CV. I'm sure like Meghan got rid of being a deal or no deal girl off her Wikipedia page. These 2 ladies are quickly removing themselves off of any current dealings that they may have had with Archewell before basically the ship goes under. They joined Tonya Holness, their press secretary, Catherine St. Laurent, their chief of staff, Natalie Campbell, Christine Shermer, Heather Wong from Travelist, Nick Collins, Meghan's long-term agent, to just name a couple. The revolving door is pretty impressive and quite comical at this point. It's like they go in, grab a coffee and out they go, they're off. But like when you are looking into a company yourself to apply for a job and you see the numbers like that, you think to yourself, well, that doesn't look like a particularly good company to work for. What could be the problem? I know, I'll go on Trustpilot. And I would suggest doing that sometimes. Employers will say, oh, it's only disgruntled employees that go on there and post something nasty about us. But if you have a lot of disgruntled employees, there is your answer, that potentially it might actually be the employer's fault. But then you have got the photographs of Meghan's evening with Meghan. And as it turns out, you can have an evening with Meghan in a gorgeous Armani green dress where she's all smiles, looking like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth, for $5,000 per table, where you can munch on salads and pass round framed photographs of the couple like these lucky ladies did. Or you can have the evening with Meghan where you've got the short straw, where you're in her employment and she humiliates you and shouts at you in front of lots of people outside the building. Now, what could it be that triggered Meghan into this fit of rage? And the look in her eyes, it is rage. That's not just someone a little bit disgruntled, a little bit irritated. That looks like, well, as they say, looks could kill. Perhaps the event wasn't sold out. Perhaps they dared to serve her the wrong sort of water. Who knows what the actual reasoning is for Meghan's rage to be directed at what seems to be a Princess Beatrice lookalike. I guess it shouldn't really matter because, you know, no one deserves to be treated like this. Think of all the stories that we heard about when she worked for the royal family. She intimidated, she abused, she humiliated members of staff. She talked down to them and shouted at them deliberately in front of other people. Well, here you go. Here's some photographs to match what her lawyer Jenny Afia said was a calculated smear campaign. It doesn't look like such a smear campaign when you've got photographs that literally back up other people's experiences. Whatever it was that this poor female member of staff did, Meghan is quite clearly enraged. Her colleagues look terrified. You've got one at the front who is ducking into the car, who literally looks like she is trying to dodge bullets in a gunfight. Then you've got the woman at the back who's smiling. Look at her face. That is a nervous smile. That is, oh, I'm so relieved it's not me right now. You know, there is enough people outside there that aren't clearly all Meghan's staff. It could be security for the event. It doesn't matter. She's not quietly telling this girl off. Look at her. Her fingers pointed at her. She is going for it. And the poor girl looks like a rabbit caught in the headlights. This is about humiliating someone that she is angry at. And you remember Jason Knauf, what he said? There is always someone in Meghan's line of sight. She has to be targeting someone. And I would say that this poor girl had a big red target on her forehead at this moment. You do not reprimand people like this. In fact, I tell you, there's only one person in the entire world that could ever talk to me like this and get away with it, and that's my mother. But seriously, if I was employment for anyone and they dared to talk to me like this, in one, not a private office, but in such a public capacity in front of my other colleagues that I have to face at work, I would be telling her where she could shove that job, and it is certainly where the sun does not shine. As I said, perhaps the event didn't go well. Perhaps this is why Meghan turned around and said there is to be no media allowed, no photographers, no reporters at this event. Because if you look at the photographs that were released, unlike Michelle Obama with her sellout power of women speech that she did, we had photographs of all angles of the sold out stadium. Meghan, we've got some carefully angled photographs, much like what they tried to do with Harry's UN speech, you know, where he almost compared himself to Nelson Mandela. Yes, another breach with the couple, really. They really are truly trying to get themselves barred from South Africa. But yeah, I think that it didn't go the way that Meghan wanted it to be. Maybe she didn't realise that she was at a Marriott in Indianapolis. Now, there's nothing wrong with a Marriott. Some of them are actually very nice to stay in. But how far the mighty have fallen to be giving a talk in a Marriott hotel in Indianapolis. It's quite comical. Not that it stopped Meghan, of course, catching a private jet to the event to jet back home. Maybe that's why she was shouting at her member of staff, because the private jet wasn't ready at the time that Meghan needed it to be. Whatever the reasoning was, this girl clearly looks terrified of Meghan, and quite like, I think they called themselves the Sussex survivors, the women and men that worked at the palace as part of Meghan and Harry's staff, turned around and said that she's a sociopath. And these photographs, I have to say, as I said, it's not a calculated smear campaign. She looks utterly evil. It's not just the fact that she's lost her temper, she's shouting at her in front of all these people. It's the way she's glaring at her before, after. You know, that is one hell of a way to truly intimidate someone. As I said, if looks could kill. Obviously, Meghan tries to sell herself as this girl boss, this feminist. You know, she's doing everything for working women. But it seems that she employs women so it looks good aesthetically, but then decides that she wants to terrorise them. And that is truly shocking. But it's not shocking why they have clearly such a high turnover of staff. As I said, it's a revolving door. They might as well just literally get a badge, walk in, walk out, and off they go. Now, it's not just their staff either. There's been so many reports of Meghan when she worked with the fashion staff and Reitmans, and this was before she became a duchess. So you can just imagine she's always had this level of being completely rude to anyone that she feels is beneath her. We had a videographer talk about how she took a pack of women and they were literally sitting there like witches of Eastwick, being nasty about the staff, in between Meghan having these very, very glamorous shots taken. She not only obviously has a high opinion of herself, but she feels that to have power, she has to talk to people like they are dirt to make her feel good about herself. And that is what they say, the age-old thing about bullies. Netflix and Spotify have had lots of leaks and lots of rumours that their staff found it incredibly difficult to work with Meghan. Apparently she doesn't take no for an answer, she's incredibly opinionated, and that is them just being polite. Apparently she also, I'm sure I read in Tom Bower's book, that she wasn't particularly great with the Vogue staff, and it was actually Edward Enninful that had to get involved to say, Meghan, you really shouldn't be on the front cover of your own edition of this because it will look bad. And he was clearly had enough clout for her to be, oh yes, Edward, because she is nice to people that I believe she wants something from. But if you work for her, then I believe it is a very, very different kettle of fish. The fact that they more recently had the director of their Netflix documentary, the first director, quit due to creative differences, and he was possibly going to get a big paycheck from doing it. That to me just filters through what all of this says to me, and that is that they are not nice, and they are certainly not kind. You only have to look at how they've actually treated their family and their friends. It's not just the fallout of William and Catherine and Prince Charles. You look at how Meghan has treated Thomas Markle, a father that she praised all of her Tig blogs, but the moment that she married Harry and she had the chance to join in the royal family, she got rid of him and threw him out like he was nothing more than a piece of rubbish. Even Thomas's failing health, having a stroke, has not even softened her to let him meet his grandchildren. And Harry, he not only went ahead with Oprah, knowing Prince Philip was very, very sick, that he was dying, and still went ahead with it, laughing at the end of it. Harry and Meghan would have been releasing this Netflix documentary while the Queen was alive, despite knowing that the Queen was suffering from a form of cancer. Yes, the news that's recently come out, the Queen had actually been battling a form of bone cancer. So Harry and Meghan, knowing this, still have proceeded with all of the attacks that they have continuously done. They have still refused to take their children over to spend time with the Queen in her final years. And even 3 days before the Queen actually died, still refused to meet her. They only showed interest in Queen Elizabeth, sadly, when she died. Tell me again how these two can be classed as humanitarians, preaching about kindness and compassion when they treat their families absolutely abominably. The fact that so many members of staff are jumping ship, like I said, rats leaving a sinking ship, does lead me to believe, and the reaction that the world has had to their second drop trailer, that their ship is definitely going under. And I do believe that in time, Meghan, let's talk about Titanic, Meghan will do to Harry what Rose did to Jack. And that will be, she will hang on to that piece of wood and let him freeze to death, and she will eventually snap his fingers and let him drift down to the depths of the ocean. Bye, Harry. We can just all see it happening. And I'm really, honestly, so glad that the worldwide media is picking up now. I am seeing people that have defended Harry and Meghan for so long, realising how absolutely awful this Netflix documentary is going to be. So please, please, everyone, do not worry. Do not worry, and do not think for a second that these two are going to take the shine off of what was an incredibly successful tour of Boston. of which I am now ending this video and I am going to start filming that video. So I will be back with you super soon. So take care for now, guys. Bye.
If you would like to buy me a coffee, please go to my About page and click the link. Love, Taz.